What would happen to a country when there is no rite of passage anymore? When we don't have this moment when you're 16 or you're 18 and you go on a fishing quest, you have to pull a lion by its tail, you go out into the jungle, you come back and the whole village just knows that you are a real man or a real woman, and from that point on your whole identity changes. This is something that we don't have anymore in our society. And in this video I'm going to explain what the king, the warrior, the magician and the lover are doing inside of your psyche, and how you can actually enable and capture this king or queen type of energy and just live life fully. I got really fascinated by this topic because I recognized that I am myself lacking the warrior energy a bit, because I really love to indulge in all kinds of information and books and documentaries, and I'm also the lover because there's like no boundaries in the way I'm thinking. I'm always dreaming about so many things, and actually I think also beginning this YouTube journey is one step towards embodying this warrior type of energy as well. So there's 4 types of archetypes. I'm not saying that there are actual little warriors or wizards living inside of you, but this framework really helps to analyze your own life and to realize which part would be lacking and which part is actually like amplified inside of yourself. So what's gonna happen when you have this energy of the warrior and the wizard and the lover all in line? I like to think of this as the hands, the head and the heart. If we have these things in line, we can actually create our kingdom, or we can just be the king of the queen of our own life. I'm first going to explain the warrior, the lover and the magician, and afterwards I will explain what your life could look like when you are having all these things in balance and you can be the king or queen of your own life. So the first archetype, let's talk about the wizard. This is, they say that we are currently living in the wizard era, the time of the wizard, because the wizard is all about thinking, he's all about the mind, he's all about looking inside, he's all about trying to understand how the world works around him. He has this helicopter view, he's interested in alchemy, he's interested in fidgeting around with electronics and just little DIY projects. And the more knowledge, the better. With every archetype, there's always a shadow side, and when we are not aware of this shadow side, it will rule our life, and we won't even be aware why some things in life are getting stuck, but it's because we are not actually giving power or recognizing these shadow parts of these archetypes. I used to be the typical archetype of just the wizard and the lover, and what your life would look like if you would only be a wizard. You would just be sitting around reading, you would just be consuming content and thinking and having all these amazing ideas, but never putting anything into action. And I can imagine that this is something that a lot of people resonate with, and that's also why I found this framework really empowering for myself. Alright, so let's talk about the next archetype. This is the lover. The lover is all about the senses and being able to perceive the people around him and just feel and sense how they are feeling. The lover is the source of intuition, and the lover is also really important because if there's no lover inside of us, the other archetypes will just become very dull, and there's no more joy in anything that we are doing. The lover sees no boundaries, and the lover wants to experience the world as one big orgasm. It wants to just connect his heart or her heart to all the other people around them and just be like connecting with everyone. So what can you do when you notice that there might be a lack of this lover, and actually when there's the shadow side of the lover inside of you, you might indulge in hedonic pleasures like taking drugs or alcohol. This is because we want to use our senses, we want to indulge in stuff, but we are indulging in the wrong type of stuff. So what you want to do if you want to amplify or explore this lover side of yourself is just take some time and listen to music or start dancing and use your senses and just like feel and experience art and create art and just be more sensitive. And I know that a lot of people, and especially men in our society, are always triggered by this idea of becoming more sensitive, but the way I look at this is that if you are just ignoring this need in yourself for being sensitive, there will not be a lot of love and pleasure left in your life, and all that's gonna happen is just you trying to indulge in all these sensory hedonic pleasures like alcohol and whatever, just running away from yourself. And you're not going to find any pleasure in the actual things that you are doing in life. So if you are a strong lover, you will notice that you are always dreaming about a beautiful, better world, and you're trying to connect to other people, but the problem is that there is no boundaries. And I already talked about this before in one of my first videos. The lover is a lot like Dionysus, the god of the senses and the orgies and the wine and no boundaries and irrationality. And that's a good thing, we need that. But it's also a bad thing when there's just no boundaries at all. And that's when we need the god of restraints and order and rationality, Apollo. And he can also be thought of as this warrior type of energy. So these are the hands. So if you are predominantly a warrior type of energy, you will just be working your ass off. It's the powerhouse of our psyche, of our behavior. The warrior has like an unlimited amount of carrying all our physical and emotional pain. It has really strong boundaries. It lives for something bigger than himself, like the samurai code. But if you are only the warrior, you are just going to be working and working and working, but the only thing that you see on the horizon is just a really big question mark, because you don't take the time to reflect and use a bit of your magician energy, or you don't take the time to feel, so your whole work just feels shallow and you're just working and working and working, but you don't really know where you're going. One really obvious example of this in our culture is just the hustle grind culture, where people say you always have to work harder and just like 80-hour weeks. But yeah, that's also just showing off. And honestly, this is not sustainable, and eventually you will crash and you will look back to this video and realize, wait a second, I just need to be a bit more sensual, a bit more loving to myself, a bit more enjoying the senses, the music, the people around me, connecting. The boundaries that I give myself are too hard. So you could learn a bit from the lover by just like having no boundaries, or just letting loose of these rigid structures. And I know that I sound like I'm a bit negative about this warrior energy, but it's actually the one that I admire the most. And a few things that you can do as the warrior energy, or to amplify this warrior side inside of yourself, is to speak the truth, to don't go out of the way of any clashes, start doing like martial arts, just like work out, take a run, just keep yourself busy. And this is also because the warrior, it's really important for the warrior to train himself not to think. So this is what we are doing when we are practicing martial arts. We are training our reflexes. We don't want to think like, how am I going to move when someone is trying to hit me? We as warriors want to just move swiftly and with force and don't think too much about this stuff. And this is something that really helped me as like someone who's leaning way too much to the wizard and lover type. Just to notice, try not to think too much, just like create momentum, start running, and this was really helpful for me. One short story that I really like about this warrior energy is that there was once a samurai and he gained an order from the emperor to kill one of the other enemy emperors. And he went on his path, and after his journey he met this emperor that he had to kill. He had this order, he was living by his Bushido code, he had this rigid structure, he knew that he was not doing it for himself. He was going to kill this man just because it was his order from his emperor. And what happened at that moment, just when he was about to use his katana to slice off his opponent's neck, was that his opponent spat in his face. And at that moment he stopped and he just put his sword back and he walked away. Now why would he do this? First he was trying to kill the emperor just out of the code that he was living by. But just at the moment when his opponent spat in his face, he felt angry and he wanted to kill him just out of his own intrinsic need, because he was angry. And this is not what the warrior is living by. The warrior is living by something bigger than himself, by a code that is established, and not just because he has a certain feeling and he wants to act on it. And then the last and best archetype is the king energy. And in the book The King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, they talk about the masculine archetypes, but I believe that this might as well be a queen archetype, because it relates to the women that I know as well. So when these three archetypes that I call the wizard, the warrior and the lover are all nicely in balance, they create a healthy king. What can you do if you are willing to be a good king, like a strong, wise, caring king? Things that you could practice is giving a presentation and actually caring more about the people who are watching the presentation than to care about your own ego and how you are coming across. Because a good king knows that he is just a medium, he is just the messenger of the wealth and health of his kingdom, and not the source of it. Although it is reflected that when the king is healthy, his kingdom will be healthy, but a good king is not associating himself with the power. He's selfless, he's caring a lot about the people around him. I hope that by watching this video it became obvious or more clear to you which archetype is more common inside of you, so which one is more emphasized. Maybe you are really a wizard and you love reading, you love working on little DIY projects, but you're never really doing anything. Or maybe you are way too much of a lover and you just want to create art, but there is no boundaries. Or maybe you are a warrior and you're really grinding hard but never taking the time to step back and think about what you're doing or feeling what you are doing. If you are triggered or interested by this video, let me know and I will dive deeper into this topic, because for me it's really interesting. There's a lot more stuff and much more nuance to cover, and I hope that just as it was for me very empowering to notice that I tend to be a wizard and a lover, but not too much of a warrior. I started to notice I should just speak the truth, confront myself and others, go do some martial arts, go work out, and just like get the ball rolling. I hope that just as well as this was empowering for me, this can also be very empowering for you. And I hope to see you in the next video.